Harvey Weinstein was found guilty of 2 of the 5 charges that he was charged with. He avoided the more serious charges that he was charged with. As everyone knows, he's been accused by around 80 women of sexual misconduct, including charges that go all the way up to rape. From The Hill, Weinstein was found guilty of a criminal sexual act and 3rd-degree rape. Weinstein faces up to 4 years in prison on the rape charge and between 5 and 25 years for the criminal sexual act charge. He was acquitted on more serious charges of predatory sexual assault and rape in the 1st degree, which could have resulted in a life sentence. It's hard to find evidence on charges like that because there wasn't physical evidence. This had happened a long time ago, but the fact that he was found guilty of some of these charges, I think, is a win.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where I guess nobody could take for granted that there would literally be any consequences. I mean, he's very powerful and all that. But this sort of thing never, I can only speak for myself. He still did it all. And the careers that were ruined, the lives that were irreparably changed, they're gonna, some people will feel a little bit better, and that's not nothing. That's all that really can be acquired at this point. But the damage is still done, and so even this approximate justice can never feel totally just because he got to live almost 98% of his life that he will eventually have. He got away with all of it.
Well, interesting, he wasn't using his walker, I saw there. I don't know if he was
feeling better.
Feeling a little bit better now that the conviction was handed down. He doesn't need the tennis ball walker anymore.
There was reports of after the Super Bowl, he was back in the courtroom the next day hungover because he had a party. It's another one of those instances of feeling like, hey, I'm this guy with this kind of status and this kind of wealth. I got it. And to a degree, like you said, I mean, it's symbolic that that the more serious charges weren't the ones he was found guilty of. So he's like, hey, skirted on those, but then something else is still gonna happen. I guess we'll see where the sentencing goes. But I guess it's a mixed bag because it could have been worse. We've seen how people just completely get off from things that they've done blatantly and obviously. But then they still hanging his hat on the fact that, well, those serious things they didn't get me on. And he's already how old is he? He's an old guy, and
I think it's in his late 60s.
Late 60s, and then what?
And he's lived a hard 60, I would say.
Right. Yeah, he does not look good, and I don't really care about saying that because
that's a freebie.
Because he's a despicable, disgusting. I mean, every word that's negative you can say about him, except if you are a guest on Fox News. And I'm not saying she was saying he was a good guy, but this Fox guest, Jana Spilbor, she had some questionable comments about Harvey Weinstein, to say the least.
You believe you're surprised they convicted on what they did. Explain that.
Okay, and I'll explain that so I don't get stoned when I walk out of the building. The defense in this case was based on one word: consent. And I think the defense did an excellent job of trying to show that the accusers in this case had ongoing relationships with Harvey Weinstein that any reasonable average person would think was a consensual relationship. And so when you look at not the act itself that they testified to, but when you look at what they did afterward, it just defied logic and common sense.
In the sense that they still had a friendship or a
relationships. They would sign their emails, much love. They reached out to him. They accepted gifts from him. They wanted to get in contact with him. They wanted to go to dinner with him. After he forcibly raped them, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's almost like they had a power imbalance in the relationship, and these actresses needed him to get work. The entire reason behind his predatory, rapist behavior in the first place.
Yeah, and also that is effectively a legal analyst saying these rape victims weren't the rape victims I need them to be for me to believe them. And one of the most frustrating things about doing this job, maybe you guys will agree, is there are certain things that are simply facts and you state them, but you have to state them over and over and over and over again. The fact that some people are sexually assaulted and never report it, or are afraid to report it, or aren't really sure exactly how to respond, so they send text messages the next day to that person. None of those things stop them from having been sexually assaulted. And we can acknowledge that. She's a legal analyst. The idea that she's never been presented with that information, perhaps by victims of rape, is unimaginable. And yet she goes on TV and continues to say to the almost overwhelmingly male audience of Fox News, here are a bunch of reasons that you can use to not trust women when they say they've been harassed or assaulted. I'm just gonna list them for you. You've been told otherwise, but here, you can feel free to judge these women if any of these things are true.
Well, we already know that she knows. Because that's the first question. Like, has she not heard about this? Because 16-year-old kids know this. To a degree, I mean, if they want to listen to it. So to go on Fox and then say this, you can tell that it's in the back of her mind because she says, I don't want to get stoned when I walk out of the building for saying this. Because she knows that there's a pushback for that narrative. And I don't know if she means she doesn't believe it anymore, because she kept having a couple caveats. We'll get to that next clip too, where, well, I'm just gonna say this and I know it's tough to say and I don't want to get stoned when I come out and this and that. So do you think that it's unnecessarily you'll get lambasted over this? Or do you think that there's reason behind people getting upset about these things that you're saying because you know they don't make sense? Or you just need to have your appearance on Fox be layered so that you can have a different perspective?
Well, I doubt that's how she thinks. I think they probably think, oh, it's the outrage machine and that they're all emotional and not factual. They're not looking at it in the lens that I am. I'm being the legal, rational mind here. And that's how she probably says these things to sleep at night. And it's just completely missing the overall picture. But Fox News is the channel of victim blaming. We saw it with Trayvon Martin. We saw it with every police shooting. We see it with women. They are servicing the powerful, so they're gonna be more inclined to protect the interests of the person who committed the crime than actually the victims themselves. Pretty much sums up their moral bankruptcy just right there. And she didn't stop there. She continued to couch her horrific statements in this appearance on Fox News, and even the Fox host seemed uncomfortable with it.
I think what they accomplished in court, what the prosecution accomplished in this case, is the culture is now going to be different, and kudos to them. That is a very good thing. We don't need to have people in positions of power taking advantage of that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that women also take responsibility and not, I mean, it's very hard to say. A lot of these women wanted to get a foothold in their career, and for that reason, they spent time with a man who later they would accuse of rape.
Yeah, that was a knowing, okay, wrap this up, this is problematic.
Yeah, that was just like, so they wanted to get a leg up on their career, so they spent time with this guy who they would later find out was a rapist. Okay, so they could have like never talked to him in the first place. Like the bar that is set for other people's behavior when they are potentially at the risk of their life and career being ended at the whim of a powerful man, to so callously and easily just set up those bars when you perhaps have never been in that situation is just unimaginable. Particularly, can we just briefly mention that this conversation is going on Fox News, which was the site of like basically a pyramid scheme of sexual assault and harassment for literally years. We just had a movie documenting how complicit the upper management of Fox News was with exactly this behavior. But man, they don't seem to have learned much from the amazing performances that we saw there, because they've just gone right back to it. Like, let's not acknowledge that we did this sort of thing, and let's also spread the idea that it was pretty much okay, at least understandable, when other powerful people in media were doing it.
So there's this process of this, the approach she went to with the narrative of had the women take the responsibility, and we've heard this one too. So she hit both of them. She's making sure she hit all the highlights. And honestly, there's something to saying that to your close friend or family member. If you have a daughter that's going off, she's going off to LA and she's gonna become an actress, be like, listen, hun, beware of the predatory type of folks, because the world is full of them. I think it's okay to tell your friends and family that to help protect and be like, hey, if this guy's coming this way, get yourself away from him. I understand you want to have this kind of career, whatever. That's something you tell your people, to make sure that they're safe and nothing happens to them. Once something has happened to someone, you don't have to start saying, hey, you should have taken responsibility because he never would have done this if you didn't let him do it. He's doing it. That's who he is. That's what he's been doing for as long as we've been hearing about this. So I think Whoopi Goldberg did that with, there was like an online influencer who some pictures came out because it was in the cloud. It was one of those busts. And she said, hey, just don't take these pictures anymore. And everyone lost it on her, right? I get telling that to your daughter, but going on TV and telling people not to do that because then somebody's gonna get you for it, that's one of those things where we're deflecting all the attention to all the people who shouldn't do it. How often are we gonna start telling our sons at 15 years old, hey, son, I tell you what, how about you don't do this? Rather than having to always tell, and I'm talking about publicly, rather than having to always tell women or victims of this, man or woman, hey, you should have done something different so this predator wouldn't have done that to you. How about we start telling the people before they become predators, hey, how about we stop trying this whole predator thing? The responsibility is never on that side.
And I just saw on #2RT Live, we got a message from Jess who says, I was 10 when I was sexually assaulted by a very close family member. He lived in my house and I was forced to live with him for 7 more years. So that means it was my fault because I was forced to live at home? I don't know, I guess we'd have to ask her, but that certainly seems to be laying out that why didn't you run away? Why didn't you do all these things that a 10-year-old could never imagine doing? If you didn't do those things, I guess you don't meet the bar of the right sort of victim for Fox News.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.